There we go. So, webinar started. We've started recording. I'm going to pause that. Excellent. So I want to thank all of you for coming to this session on coding the future, the use of Decidim and building a digital Commonwealth. And my name is Ben Manski. For those of you for whom this may be your first session today, or at least the first session involving me, I'm an assistant professor of sociology, a public sociologist here at George Mason University, and I direct our Next System Studies program. And I am going to be acting primarily as our session facilitator and chair today. And we have two presentations that are ready for all of you. And those will be presented by Dhruv Deepak, who is ABD. That's to say he's closing in on his PhD as a sociologist here at George Mason University, and he manages the Digital Commonwealth Project, a project of Next System Studies at GMU. And then Kei Larios, who is a member owner of Nova Web Development Cooperative and very involved with the Solidarity Economy movement and many other things here in Virginia, and is working with us. And it's a partnership that you'll be hearing about. So I'm very excited about this session. It's like a number of other sessions that have been taking place at this convergence because it represents, some knowledge that comes from research and study, but also it represents work that's in action, right? A project that has emerged out of a number of different places where, and it's something that we're actually building here in Northern Virginia. And that is, it's a number of things actually. So it's a platform for participatory planning and for a democratic economy here in Northern Virginia, or NOVA as we know it here in this region. It's also an opportunity for us to learn more about what it takes to design technology democratically, what it takes for communities to be able to assert control over technology and to reassert control, because so many important innovations, after all, come out of communities and come out of social movements. So it's both a project that involves, research and also, practice. I'm not going to give a longer introduction today. I actually would like us to get directly into the presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to Dhruv, and Dhruv is going to share with us something, as I understand it, about the sort of the larger, trajectory and actually some of the work that he and I have been doing together on this idea of the digital Commonwealth and digital constitutionalism. So, Dhruv, please take it away.
Thanks, Ben. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are, everyone. Thanks for being here, and I'm really excited to present about our work here at Next System Studies, specifically concerning the Digital Commonwealth Project and our integrating of Decidim into our work. My name is, as Ben mentioned, Dhruv Deepak. I'm a researcher here at George Mason University, and I work at the intersection of technology, community, and political economy through the Next System Studies program. I lead the Digital Commonwealth Project, which we started about three and a half years ago. And actually, this past year's progress has been really exciting because we have brought together and started to integrate various strands of work at Next System Studies, using and leveraging technology to achieve that integration. So one of the outcomes of that convergence, which is not to be confused with today and tomorrow's convergence, is the Digital Commonwealth Project, but more specifically the Decidim integration, which we'll talk about in this session. I believe we're gathering at exactly the right moment, though on the surface it may not seem so for many people. It's a moment where Northern Virginia, in particular, Northern Virginia's digital future is being shaped, and we have a really great opportunity to ensure that future is moving towards a more democratic and inclusive vision and community-rooted vision. So, as I said, we started the Digital Commonwealth project about 3.5 years ago with one main question, which was what would it look like if communities, instead of corporations, had control of the digital infrastructure shaping our economy and increasingly our democracy? And we were launching the Digital Commonwealth project against the backdrop of democratic backsliding, the accelerating climate crisis, and of course, the growing dominance of tech monopolies. Our starting point was admittedly kind of ambitious for the time, and what we wanted to do was to create a participatory design process that would allow communities in this region, Northern Virginia in particular, to imagine and begin building a new economic ecosystem. By 2023, I feel we had sharpened that vision. Um, we 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 I guess primed our focus on creating a regional digital platform cooperative, and the aim of that cooperative would be to help local communities generate, circulate, and retain wealth, which would run counter to the extraction or extractive logics that's so typical in tech-driven development. We aligned this with new opportunities, such as the Chips and Science Act. And the Chips and Science Act actually calls for investments that build regional wealth and promotes employee ownership. Um, Today,
That was federal legislation under the Biden administration.
that's right. Yeah, we don't know the status of that. A lot of that work, that legislative work, is being undone or unfunded, defunded as we speak. But uh, it is still a significant achievement. Excuse me. So today, the Digital Commonwealth Project, I would say, has evolved into more of a community engaged research and development initiative. And we're looking to explore how technology, when it is democratically designed and governed, can empower communities, and that is economically as well as politically. So this is still an ambitious vision because we're looking at creating or amending a societal framework leveraging digital technology, but with the aim of organizing economic relations and producing democracy and solidarity. Um, it 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 goes beyond creating digital commons, right? So digital commons focuses mainly on collective resource management. Uh, when we talk of digital commonwealth, that is integrating various diverse efforts into a system of governance, into a system of resource distribution, and into a system that um, uh, that supports technological sovereignty. So this year, our work has been deepened building, by looking to build civic tech tools like with the Decidim participatory platform. And that platform in particular is creating technical capacity among our community partners while embedding open governance principles. So in short, the Digital Commonwealth Project is not academic work. It's a living, growing model of how technology can be used to serve democracy from the ground up. Uh, with that, I'll leave it there, and we'll take more questions if there are any about the DCP. But why don't we move on to Kei's presentation now?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe as a way of transition, just to say that, what you just said, Dhruv, that it's not an academic project. I think maybe another way to say it's not merely an academic research project. And it should be said that Dhruv and I recently published an article that really digs into the emergence of all kinds of projects that we describe as elements of a digital commonwealth, right? So showing how around the world there, the pieces of the kind of system of governance and resource sharing in digital capacity that you were describing is emerging. So I just want to point people to that, coding the future, digital commoners, and the constitution of the next system. But I also am wondering, Dhruv, before we go to Kei, if you could also talk about sort of the practical work with democratizing Nova and the DeNova Technology Committee, right? And so that people who are not from GMU or from Northern Virginia maybe have a sense of when you're talking about sort of the practical on the ground, what the relationship between your research on digital commoning and sort of the possibilities and projects elsewhere and how that's related to the work of the Democratizing Nova project.
Yeah, I can do that. And I should say that when I said the Digital Commonwealth project is not an academic project, it's kind of a slip of the tongue because the academic, I feel like I'm covering the academic part of that research in my dissertation, which we can get into later on if there's time. Um, so in terms of DeNova or democratizing Nova, um, one of the things that we have uh, tried to do with the Digital Commonwealth project, as I said, is integrate our work across next system studies here at George Mason. Um, I don't know if people in this meeting are aware of what DeNova is. Do you want to give an introduction to that project?
Sure, sure. I can just say a
Yeah.
little bit about it. So, democratizing Nova is something that started off as a community engaged research project to learn about all the different initiatives that are already happening in Northern Virginia in different areas of life here in Northern Virginia. And so that project started in 2021. And it started by building a database. So some of the same kinds of things that were discussed in some of the solidarity economy sessions are the same kinds of things that we have been doing with democratizing Nova. Getting, tracking down all the community land trusts and worker cooperatives and community cooperatives and municipal media initiatives that are alive and mostly well here in Northern Virginia. And that project has involved scores of students here at GMU, grad students, undergrads, and out of that came a database that has identified over 160 initiatives that meet selection criteria for being about democratization, and not just in the economic dimension of life, but also political, cultural in some cases, ecological. So there's these 16 categories, and it's given us a sense of what's out there, and what may be missing. And then out of that process, that led to our second stage of the work, which is really about building relationships and building a community of different sets of individuals and organizations throughout Northern Virginia who were interested in working together to transition Northern Virginia to a different system, right? To move this region as quickly as we can to a system that produces, as you said, Dhruv, democracy, sustainability, and justice. And so there is a council that is a governing council that now has been meeting for about a year and a half called the Democratizing Nova Council. Kei is a member of that council and represents Nova Web Development Cooperative. The president of the Federation of Labor in Northern Virginia is part of this, the executive director of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce. We have various county officials who serve. We have people from civil rights organizations and other community organizations and from the universities. And the council meets regularly. So we're in this process of trying to transition from merely building relationships, which is pretty important, to actually moving resources. And that's where we are right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of the backstory there. And I guess that's probably what I would have said if I had taken some time with the introduction. But yeah, there is the DNOVA Technology Committee, and I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, so on the back of what you just said, where the technology aspect comes in is like you mentioned, this technology committee, which we basically carved out the technology function of that DNOVA council, uh, and the aim of that is to help with this democratization process along with all the community partners that are present in this Northern Virginia community with the same aims. So we have the chance to use open source technologies, for example, to build participatory budgeting systems, community-driven economic development tools, mutual aid platforms, uh, more transparent uh, data governance processes, and so on. So the function of the technology committee will be first to assess the needs of the community partners that are part of this DNOVA network and enable those connections that Ben mentioned. And then after those two things, decide where resources can best be allocated in terms of designing and deploying technology to further those ends of democratizing this region.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much, Dhruv, and really appreciate all the work and the leadership you provided for these past years, and thank you for being in this with all of us. Yeah, let's turn it over to UK at this point, and to speak about Decidim, and just to say that out of that process that Dhruv was just describing. You guys proposed Decidim early on as something that we should be looking at as sort of a first and a big step, but a first step. So thank you for all of your work on this, and looking forward to what you have to share.
Yeah, no, of course, I'm very excited to show you guys. Yeah, it's been a good process of seeing like how this new technology will apply to all of the work that we're doing in Northern Virginia. But before, I want to lay the groundwork and show you what Decidim actually is. So let me see if I can share my screen, my little presentation. There you go. And I put book. Unfortunately, Guillaume wasn't able to join us, but we can go ahead. So an overview, Decidim is an open source digital platform. It's used by 32 countries, 300 institutions, 168 organizations, basically a million participants and counting, hopefully us as well in Northern Virginia. It originated in Spain, was adopted by Barcelona, and they have a governing body called Decidim that decides basically how the software should run, what changes should be made, or what things should be changed and stuff. And one great thing about Decidim is that every participant who is in the platform has an identity, right? So they cannot be deleted by a government, and basically everything they say has to be accounted for, unless they commit horrible things. So another aspect of Decidim that I forgot to mention is that Decidim actually stands for We Decide. It's in Catalan, and basically the history of it started in 2015 out of protests, and it was adopted by the city of Barcelona, which is now the biggest instance of Decidim in the world. But yeah, let's get over and see how this works. So we've got assemblies. Assemblies are decision-making bodies or groups like councils, working groups, commissions that meet regularly. They basically are the people who are the organizers of either a region or like a group or a commission. A lot of these assemblies, a lot of them meet online, a lot of them meet in person, depending on the needs the specific municipality or the specific organization. So the one on the right over here is the assembly for the city of Barcelona. They have a separate assembly for deciding how the assemblies work. So that is also cool to see. And then we've got the processes. So Decidim has a separation between assemblies and processes, because processes are things that could happen individually and can be driven by the idea generation of people. So a process is a space that basically allows to create and activate participatory processes. For example, participatory budgeting, strategic planning, collaborative writing, for example, writing a business plan for a cooperative. That could be something that you could use, collaborative writing and stuff, or designing urban space, like public policy planning and stuff like that. And over here to the right, we have the process timeline for I think this is the process of the People's Budget of Seattle. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, that's the People's Budget of Seattle. That was cool to see how that process came to be, and they actually succeeded in using the participatory budgeting. Another thing is a component to the participatory use of the platform is proposals. So anyone who basically uses the platform can make proposals. Some cities have rules, some others don't. For example, residents aged over 13 can select proposals, which ones to support, how much money to put into it, how much money they feel like they should put into it. And anyone can make a proposal. I think this is proposal for the city of Helsinki. Some cities encourage participants to actually read about other areas and try to put themselves in the positions of the citizens that live in other areas. So it would be amazing if maybe we in Northern Virginia get to read about the people in Shenandoah, or if we get to read about the people in what's the zip code? 757 Virginia Beach. So yeah, it's cool to see how this technology would make it easier for us to understand what are the actual needs, and what are the needs that are common for us in the state, and how can we actually come together, have a proposal, maybe have an assembly, or get a project out of it, get a process out of it, do a participatory budgeting process. So yeah, this is how the proposals is a lot of the idea generation from the proposals come from initial things like debates. They come from blogs. They come from an initial meeting or an initial assembly that was organized, right, in person or online. And a lot of these proposals, they're sortitioned and chosen out to basically an algorithm that is not judgmental of proposals, and basically so that everyone has a equal chance at expressing the needs of their community. So another great one that I'm very excited about is conferences. Conferences like this one, which is really huge. So conference component in Decidim is a collection of meetings that is arranged in a program. For example, the Nova Summit was also a conference. And also it can be used for on-conference conferences. But it's an amazing tool to organize the things like registration, things like logistics, things like who's going to be there, who's going to speak. And a goal we want in the future is to use this specific component in the local teach-ins in Northern Virginia, or in other parts of the country, and see how we can apply it so that it meets their needs, right? It doesn't all have to be online, right? There could be a option where you put, or in a meeting where you put, oh, we'll meet in person this time, geolocate that option and see, oh, we'll meet at this person's house this next time to talk about the conference and stuff like that. This is an example of, I forgot to put it, of the Helsinki's, I think this is the rules. Yes, these are the rules of the proposals. So for example, they have that a proposal must not be less than 35,000 pounds, which is the cost of an individual proposal. And then they may not exceed 50% of the total funds, stuff like that. So those I've seen in the instances that actually work when they put rules, people actually participate more. And people are encouraged to participate because then they have something to work with. So, yeah. So the meetings component is probably one of the most important components because it is central to every participatory component. So it's in the assemblies and the processes. So people can establish, meetings that can happen whether they could be online or in person. They don't have to be formal. They can be informal. So yeah, and we have a little option where people can actually see where these meetings are taking place, their municipality or in organizations. So yeah, I would say it's a great logistical tool and definitely something we need. And here are some of the other components that are more user-centered. So blogs, debates, surveys, and citations. So this is the way that people interact with each other and interact with the organizers who use Decidim. So debates is a great tool for idea generation. So debating with other people, commenting on their responses, endorsing the debates. It's the same way that we endorse or vote for proposals. So this is when, for example, we have a debate that is highly endorsed. We have the option to either turn it into a project, turn it into a proposal, something that cannot just stay in conversation and actually become concrete. We've got surveys and the citations, which is I would say is one of the most important components because, like I said, it's non-biased, uniform distribution of proposals. So yeah.
Just interrupt for a second. There
Yeah.
was a question in the chat. We'll come to other questions and discuss
Yeah, of
a little
course.
bit. But there's a question just if you could describe sortition a little bit. I think the person who raised it is probably quite involved with it, but they were saying maybe some people don't know what that is.
Yeah, of course. So I know that they use a unbiased kind of algorithm to basically choose from the proposals which proposals should be addressed. So basically, if there was maybe too many proposals or proposals that were voted higher and then others ignored, they wouldn't be ignored. So they would be chosen by the most chosen proposal would be on the list, but other proposals would also be on the list regardless of how many views they had, how many comments they had. It's basically unbiased, but also random.
Right.
So
it's in addition to other ways, in the case of Decidim, in addition to other ways of proposals moving forward, it also sorts or it draws from all the proposals. So some get, as you were saying, randomly picked out, right?
Yep.
And you have the reference to a jury. So in the US context and in the common law context, the jury is a form of sortition that we're most familiar with, where basically anybody who's on the books as having voted will get drawn at some point, although I still have never gotten called for jury. But will get drawn in to serve on a jury. So that's generally speaking when we're talking about sortition, it's just like you're just taking from a particular population and you're just picking randomly. And so you're saying that this allows for that as well.
Yep, exactly. And it's not just for proposals. It can also be in a bigger city, there could be multiple participatory budgets. There could be multiple participatory texts even, like just collection of the data that is necessary and is done non-biased. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. And there's lots of resources online so people can look. But yeah, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No worries. And then more components. Participatory budgets, that's the one that we've been talking about the most. They allow participants to not just they allow participants to create and also to vote by selecting the project that they choose. So when the organizers in the platform create a project, either through idea generation or through or an assembly meeting or just consensus, they have the ability to put this project into the participatory budget component, and then people can vote on it. And it's assigned to basically be a multi-stage process. So I think if you reach a certain, when you reach a certain amount, that's stage 1. When you reach another goal, that's stage 2, and then stage 3, and it keeps going. And administrators, they decide voting rules. They decide if this process is taking place in a certain scope, in a certain area. We decide the defined amount of projects or the defined amount of money that goes into the project. So that would be the budget of the project. Like, for example, maybe a teach-in would cost, I don't know how much money, $2,000, $5,000. That could be something that is decided by the organizer, and people would vote on it as well. And then lastly, the accountability module, that is for the organizers who are using Decidim. And that is for people to basically hold themselves accountable to subdivide in like projects. So basically, one person cannot completely take care, like one person cannot completely organize one assembly. It has to be multiple people because there's multiple participatory processes in an assembly. And each participatory process needs specific attention and specific priorities, right? And there's tools that help with the accountability, which, for example, categories, scopes. There's other tools like the dissertations also help. And I think one of the most important tools is the progress. So that the progress is seen by everyone in the platform. So the people who are interested in a project, they can see the progress update, a timeline of the project, and then see the progress of how that project is going. So anyone in any let's say timeline of the project can go in and look at the previous timelines of that project and understand like why did we come to this decision and how that happened. So that is an amazing component. And yeah, I think that's it for me. And I forgot to introduce myself, but my name is Kei, and I'm a worker owner of No Web Development, and we are very excited to work with this platform and see where it takes us. But yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully Jeff or Tony, if you guys want to add anything else, please do.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kei. Yeah, we'll get into discussion. We have some time for that in a bit. And thank you for preparation. And also to clarify, so you're also a coder, right? I mean, you do, yeah?
Yeah.
Some of
So
that?
we do everything basically.
Do everything. Yeah. Development, management, you name it. So yeah, thank you for that. And just to put a fine point on it, what this is about building, as you were saying, a use of this technology here in the region, right? And for next system studies at George Mason University, and also for the next system teach-ins, what we're looking to do is to learn from that process here in Northern Virginia and perhaps in the DMV, which is to say DC, Maryland, and Virginia, but we'll start, here in our counties locally, about how to use Decidim and what its capabilities are, right? And then, as you mentioned, briefly, but just to bring this out for people, we're looking at Decidim through the Next System Teach-In Task Force as something that can be integrated into nextsystem.org. We're not going to be doing that in time for the teach-ins this November, but the idea is that this is a multi-year process, and that Decidim might be something that would be capable of being sort of foundational architecture for a digital Commonwealth. that it has a lot of the things that that we would want to see for something that we would be relying on, not just for social networking, but also, as you were saying, for participatory planning and governance, for for conferencing, for meeting. All this stuff has been built in, and the reason it's been built in, and I saw a number of comments in the chat here about this, is because the people who have developed it and taken a lead on it are people who have been in this mass participatory movement for a long time in Catalonia, in Barcelona in particular, but other parts of Catalonia as well. And then it's, as you were pointing out, it's been adopted elsewhere. And so, you have all these users around the world, right? And maintainers, and you have a governance structure. So I just want to bring that out for others here. These are all things that you pointed to, Kei, but just to bring out sort of the reason why we've been moving in this direction. In a past life, I've done a lot of web development with content management and CRM. Before Drupal was created, we had a custom system with a nonprofit that we built in 2004, 2005. We adopted Drupal. We adopted Civic CRM. I've worked with a lot of different platforms, and so I'm seeing a lot with Decidim, which would address some of the things that were learned from those earlier projects that seem, very promising. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to like getting this operational and seeing what we can do with it. Yeah, let's open it up and let's go and to see what's going on in the chat. I'll put my glasses back on since I do need those. Let's see here. There's a comment here. Okay. Yes, wonderful presentation. Absolutely agree. I had uploaded a file that I commented about, but it sounds like not everybody has been able to see that. But I uploaded a copy of the article that I mentioned that Dhruv and I co-authored in Frontiers of Sociology. Dhruv, would you be able to maybe put just a link to where it appears online? We'll put that in the chat. This is open access, so it's free. You don't have to, have a university account. Everybody can get a copy if you're interested. And then let's go to the Q&A. I see from one person here, and I'll just say Caitlin. I don't know if you would like to speak to this directly. Let me just give you the opportunity to do that, Caitlin. You had asked about the work with social.coop. Should you be able to speak to that verbally here? All right, maybe that's, there we go. Passing at the moment. So the question, I'll just read the question aloud for everybody. They're involved with governance for social.coop. It's wiki.social.coop, and you can find that there. It says, we aspire to be a cooperatively run social media site on our own platform. Where does this fit in with our thinking? We'd like to think we're one of the most democratic and autonomous social media projects on the internet. So I don't know if either of you have a response to that.
Social.coop.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of what social.coop is. Could the poster elaborate?
Yeah, so there's a website there, and I have what I would say. I mean, and Kei, are you familiar with social.coop? You want to speak to?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've definitely heard, and I think I even have an account in social.coop, and it seems it's a very similar to formerly Twitter, X. It's a social platform, of course, and it's great for the social platform aspects of it, which is interaction between users and stuff. I think in terms of providing enough structure for an organized movement, I think social platforms do a great job at bringing awareness to it. But in order to create the stability that a movement needs to survive and not just have the awareness, I think social media is not the only way we should do it, right? That's just my personal opinion. But yeah.
Thank you. And what I would say is that we're moving. It's not as if Nova Web only operates with Decidim, right? You guys work with a lot of different tools, and with the Digital Commonwealth project and Next System Studies at GMU, we're very much interested, as Dhruv was expressing earlier, we're interested in all the different ways that people are developing technology to meet needs and also to change society, right? That's a lot of what our work has been about, is recognizing that technologists are a kind of activist who are trying to use technology and build technology in order to change the world around them. And we argue that based on that recognition, that we sort of need to partner with technologists as much as possible, especially those who have a social vision, right? And that those people, those of us, I haven't done coding since I was a kid, but those of us who are not coders, we need to be working with the coders closely, and they need to be working with us and with communities very closely. So I would just say that, that for the Digital Commonwealth project, there's an interest in social.coop and other tools, everything from deep ecological alternatives to blockchain like Holochain, in different forms of distributed ledger technology that are organized on principles that are alternative to traditional mining, for example. So we want to know about that, and we want to build, there are communities. We want to be plugged into the communities of people who are building different kinds of technologies. And we also think something that's very important is that there are technology cooperatives in other parts of the world, right, in other parts of the United States. And Kei, I know that you guys have been, very much a part of that, right? The networking of worker tech co-ops, right?
Yeah, that's the Peer Tech Network, hosted by the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops. They meet, I think, yeah, now they're meeting once a month, trying to figure out how do they actually keep work central to their communities and not fall to the to the industrial complex of tech. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, and when we're talking about all of these uses of technology, right? It's important to keep in mind the bigger picture, right? So earlier in the session, we talked about having one eye on the bigger picture, and that bigger picture, at least in this context, is uh, building the digital layer of the solidarity economy, right? So, what are our objectives in doing that? And we find, as Ben said, we find that Decidim fits very nicely into that bigger picture. And there will be other uses of technology. Social.coop may be one of them, one of the ways that um, cooperative governance can contribute to uh, achieving this broader vision. But the objectives with building the digital layer of that solidarity economy is one, building community power, two, connecting and building partnerships within communities and helping build up that capacity to cooperate on projects and to scale up, sustainably scale up different community-led missions. So that's really the bigger aim, and whether it's Decidim is one solution, and we find it to be an excellent fit, at least so far, in achieving these broader objectives. But I'm sure there are many others as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dhruv. And I'm seeing a number of questions and comments, and I'm going to combine these so that we can do another round here. And I see there's a question about the We the People amendment with move to amend, and I'll address that directly. There's John's question about the direction with Decidim and whether coders, sort of I assume the question here is about what is sometimes called interoperability, which is sort of, the ability to integrate Decidim with other kinds of tools and approaches, which is something that we are very interested in and exploring. For example, we've had a session about integrating Decidim with Kumu, which is a mapping tool, right? Because we have an interest in mapping. And then there is a question that's specific to Northern Virginia and Fairfax County in particular. And just for people from outside of Virginia, just be aware that Fairfax is actually the population center for the entire region here. This is where most people in the DMV live. And so it's not a small place, although it's very green. In any event, there's a question about working with local government. And have we approached the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors directly with this? And there's the point that Aziza raises that in these other cases, many of them, it seems like Decidim has been used through formal systems of government. So those are three different things to respond to. I'm going to jump into that really into two of those, and I'll skip one, and then I'm interested in hearing from you, Kei, and you, Dhruv, on this. So on the We the People amendment, I should say I'm a co-author of that amendment. So I was one of the co-founders of the Move to Amend Coalition, and was the basically built a lot of the work in partnership with many others in 2010, 2011. So I personally support it. And in terms of this idea of digital constitutionalism, it's important to recognize that that this digital technology can be very useful, perhaps, in designing and shepherding through processes for mass popular participation in constitutional design. So the kinds of constitutions we're used to thinking about, national constitutions, state constitutions, municipal charters. This Decidim could be useful for all of that, right? But we argue, Dhruv and I also argue, that the process of coding is a constitutional act in and of itself, because most of the world's people are online most of the time in our lives, and this is where we live, and it's integrated into our lives. So when you write the code, you're actually writing the rules for how we live. So that's a form of constitutionalism too. I'm going to skip the question about interoperability. And what I'll just say to you, Aziza, is one of the things I think it's a great observation that you make, that in these European cases, the state is involved, the formal government. And in a lot of the US cases, it's actually more coming out of communities, and people are looking at it, using it in different ways. We have a different relationship to the state. So what I really like about the idea of a digital commonwealth, and about maybe using Decidim in some perhaps different ways than it's usually been used in Europe, is that we are creating forms of, we perhaps can use it to create forms of governance that operate beyond the state, right? In which you have democracy that is brought into all spheres of life where people need it, and where we use the technology to do that. And where it's not necessarily contradictory. It can be very cooperative with existing systems of government, including especially local government, but where it's not controlled by them, and where it's not dependent on elected officials and people who are working in bureaucracies. I'm not going to call them bureaucrats, because they're often wonderful people. So it is a bit of a different approach. So we have people from the county who are involved and supportive, but we're not assuming that this is going to be run by local government institutions. It's sort of beyond the state. Okay, interested in your thoughts on these questions.
Yeah. So you're talking, you're talking about question 2, right?
Sure, and any of them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other one, it's important to, well, let me do that one first. To understand that, I think, Tony, you can also come into this, but the app is open source, so anyone can contribute to it, and anyone can basically, if they need anything that they want customizable, they can customize it, add their own plugins and all of that. But the biggest concern with that is something I call tech debt, which is basically putting something into a software that, oops, someone's calling me. Sorry. My bad. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, it's just lagging.
You sound good and you look good, so maybe just
Okay. No, that's fine. No, because it appears on my computer, so I have to hang up. Sorry, but the code is, yeah, like I said, everyone, anyone who is a contributor can contribute to it. But like I said, the tech debt is the biggest part of a project. When you start adding lines of code that are not maybe are Java, or maybe they're another type of file, like they start to depreciate if they're not being like constantly updated, if they're not being constantly basically taken care of, and that breaks the app and depreciates things, right? So that's one of the things that we want to prevent. If we want people to use our app, we want it to work, right? But there are really big projects that do have big customization and still work, and that is because of the commitment of the developers who are part of these communities. Again, part of the Meta Decidim community, which is also actively working on expanding the things like customization, things like adding more components or adding more participatory aspects that they may not be completely explained by a component. But so yeah, they're working on those things. And then for the second question, sorry, I'm reading it again. Yeah, like you said, Ben, the approach that was seen in Seattle, that was organization. So they are I think they're either a grassroots or it might be a nonprofit organization in Seattle who did a participatory budgeting project, and I think it amounted to, not sure how much money it was, but it was a year-long process. So a lot of these are smaller instances of Decidim that just fulfill one purpose. It could either be participatory planning in terms of budgeting, in terms of accountability, in terms of maybe just a page for citizens to know what this organization is doing, like a blog post, or like basically pages where you post what the organization is doing or how to engage with the organization. It could be a Decidim instance with just one assembly and no processes, and the assembly explains that most of the action happens in person. So that is how the instance in New York works. The New York that participate, they have their processes that they do the idea generation both online on Decidim and in person, and they have their assemblies in person. So you go ahead and explain that to people. So yeah, they're also going through that process of creating the assembly, but they don't have participatory processes yet. So there are specific aspects of the app that basically help people to organize, right? Whenever they need to organize, and to what aspect they need to organize. So yeah, that is the way that is being used the most now. I mean, it would be amazing if city government started using it. I think maybe Richmond might be on their way to doing it. Not sure.
Absolutely. And let's go to Dhruv, and we're running a little over time. And let us do that. But I want to sort of give you, Dhruv, a chance to have sort of last thoughts. I answered a question that was posted in the chat via text, so people should be able to see that are answered. But yeah, take it away, and then because we'll be getting out of here as soon as you're done, I just want to say thank you so much, Kei, for all your work. Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. What do you have to share, I guess?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add to that. It was very comprehensive, especially Kei's comments. Just thinking about the question around use in cities and municipalities. Of course, primarily it would be in Europe. I don't know if our not just tech regulations, but more society at large in the US would allow for adoption in the same way, right? So if we look at Decidim and even complementary projects in Europe. So in my dissertation, one of the projects or one of the cases I'm analyzing is this project that ran from 2017 to 2020, I think, and it was called the Decode project. So that's decentralized citizen-owned data something, ecosystem maybe. So it was a EU government-funded project. And the idea was to create a data-centric digital economy where data produced by citizens became a common good. So Decode, as I said, it was a research project, and they operated in certain cities, including Barcelona. Not just Barcelona, there was also Amsterdam and Torino and other places. But in Barcelona specifically, they got together with Decidim, and they kind of integrated their work streams. So, and I don't know if we'll see that same level of integration between technologists and government and the research apparatus in the same way in the United States.
Absolutely. There's a lot for us to learn, a lot to do. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your defense, Dhruv, and looking forward to working with all of you. Please reach out. You can reach out to Nova Web Development Cooperative, both about this presentation, but also if you need web development, reach out to them. They are a worker-owned cooperative, and reach out to us with the Digital Commonwealth project here at Next System Studies at GMU. And Dhruv and I will be happy to get back to you. So looking forward to seeing you in other sessions later today. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
No, he's just in the same room.